next we're going to take a look at the SNAP program, and at this point I'm going to open up Firefox. I don't know how familiar you are with this browser rather than Internet Explorer. They recommend that we do use Firefox when working with SNAP. And I think you'll see that in a lot of the materials they recommend a specific browser. So at this point, let me go back to the announcement, and the SNAP 2013 emcp.com. I'm just going to copy that into my browser. And you probably have on your SNAP code packaging, it probably gives you a web address as well that you can use. But this will take us to SNAP's homepage. And as you can see here, SNAP is a training and an assessment program. So it gives you training exercises as well as assessment. So it'll grade items for you. So again, this is web-based, and doesn't matter if you're at home or in the library or at your grandma's house. You're able, as long as you have a web browser and access to the internet, you can get to SNAP after you've registered. So the tabs on the right hand side, you'll see SNAP Preview. You definitely want to look at that. The check configuration, make sure that you click on that button. That will prepare your computer that you're setting at to accept all of SNAP's background information, and it may add some plugins to your computer. And if you are going to different computers or you're using SNAP on different computers, you'll want to click on check configuration probably every time. It takes 30 seconds for it to run the process, so definitely click on that. The frequently asked questions and user guides, that'll be very helpful to you as well. The getting started you'll want to look at too. And then I want to take a look at the student registration button, and even if you've used SNAP in the past, you'll want to go to student registration because if you've used it in the past, you want to register for this course, the spreadsheets course. So you'll come here too. Notice let me go back here a minute. If you are an existing student, if you've had a course in the past that has used SNAP, then you'll want to go right in here. And we'll click on that. It'll ask you to use your login name that you've used in the past and the password. And then it's looking for this enrollment key. And the enrollment key for our course is, and this is in the announcement area, cot-headed, and you'll need to put exactly, the hyphen and everything in there. And in fact, if you want to just copy and paste it, that'll work as well. So, if you've used SNAP in the past, you still need to come in here. I'm going to go back. If you're new to SNAP, then you'll need to register for SNAP. You'll need to create a login name and a password. You'll want to use your Ivy Tech email address, and then you'll want to enter that in again. Put in your first and last name, your city that you're from, state, zip code, the time zone. If you're from the Evansville region, it is Central Time Zone, but you do want to put in the time zone in which you live. The ID number, I would ask that you put in your CO number, and then the enrollment key, as I mentioned previously, is back in the announcement area in Blackboard, and it's the cot-headed. They kind of come up with random names here, but that is your enrollment key. You do not want to click on trial activation. That will cause problems later on, so don't click that. The activation code is the code that you should have received with your packaging of SNAP. So you can enter that in as you go, and then just create a new account. And I'm going to actually cancel out of this. This will probably take me back to the previous screen. Now if you click create, it may take you to the home tab. But in any event, we want to come back here, and if you're not logged in, go ahead and log in. And then I want to take you to, if you're a new user to SNAP, you're probably only going to have one tab on the left, and it'll be the OFAD 218 Excel Fall 2014. If you've used SNAP in the past, you may see other types of tabs on the left-hand side, but you want to definitely look at the Excel Fall 2014. And then we have these arranged on the left-hand side according to weeks. And we'll go to week 1. When you click on week 1, you're going to see August 25th through August 31st. Those are the time frames and the time slots that you'll have available to complete your assignments. You'll notice in Chapter 1 there's a training section, and then there's an assessment section. Anything in the training section, which you'll see tutorials, concept exam, and skill exam. Anything in the training session is what it is. It's training. You're not going to get any points for it. It's a matter of practice. In the assessment area, that means you'll be assessed and points will be assigned. The graded for Chapter 1, looks like there's 4 of those. You can see here when they become available. August 25th at 2 a.m., which is really Monday morning, and then it goes through August 31st, and it goes off 11:55. So it's not midnight necessarily, we couldn't set that, but it's 11:55, so make sure that you get your assignments turned in prior to that time. Okay, back to the training area. You'll notice, I'm going to have you go back to Level 1, Chapter 1, and this is on page 3, your textbook. You'll notice at the very beginning it gives you performance objectives, and then on the right hand side you have an icon that says SNAP, and then there are tutorials there, tutorials 1 through 9, and those are obviously corresponding with what you see on the screen here. There are 9 of those, and you can click on those tutorials. I'll click on the third one, and you've got a couple of options here. It gives you some information about the chapter, but you can launch this tutorial with audio so that it reads to you, or you can just launch the tutorial without it and you can read it yourself. But it guides you through specific features within the chapter, and it teaches you those, asking you to complete those, or it'll show those to you to give you a better understanding of each one of the concepts and features that are learned in the chapter. Okay, so when you just kind of go through those, you click on the triangles after you read what's in the box and just do exactly what it says. Double click the left side of C3, and then come back here. The status bar indicates that the edit mode is active. Use the arrow keys, and it says press the right arrow key. So you just go through this and it'll take you through and teach you the concepts that are in Chapter 1, and every chapter has these tutorials. I'm going to exit out of this right now, and that takes me back to the beginning of the tutorial. I'm going to hit the back button and go back to all the tutorials. So you can see that there are 9 tutorials. Those tutorials introduce you to new features. Now, you've got some choices here in how you want to learn these features. The tutorials will take you through just like what I saw, what you saw on the screen there. But you'll also notice that there are projects within the chapters that you want to complete as well, and I would say do both of these. And probably if you're crunched on time, I would probably do the ones in the textbook, do the projects in the textbook, and those are based on creating worksheets either in a blank worksheet, or you can use the student data files that came on the CD that accompanied your textbook. You can use those student data files to finish the projects within the chapter. So in any event, these tutorials, you can do them as many times as you want. The concept exam is very similar to the concepts check that we've looked at previously. Those concept checks, at least for Chapter 1, let's see if I can find those real quick here, begin on page 29 and go on to page 30, but the concept exam is just practice. So like I said before, you can finish those concept exams in your textbook, get the answers to those that are found in the concept check tab in Blackboard. You can do it that way, or you can do them online here and get immediate feedback. So however you want to do that, those concept exams will prepare you for the quiz that you see in the assessment area. You'll only have one try on that quiz, so make sure that you're ready to, I mentioned this previously, but just make sure that you give yourself 30 minutes to complete the exam. There are 20 questions on the exam, and quizzes. There's 20 questions on the quiz, and then each one is worth a half point. So each quiz is worth 10 points. Okay, so those kind of go hand in hand. The concept exam and the training takes you through the concept checks, and then that prepares you for the quizzes that you'll see in the assessment area. The skill exam, again, it's up in the tutorial area, so there's no points assigned, but what happens here is it's a scenario that is kind of a problem, a hands-on problem that tests the concepts, all of the concepts within the chapter. And so it's kind of reviewing all the tutorials that you've gone over and puts them in one scenario, so you can kind of get a overall view of the concepts and the features that were learned in that chapter. So all those, again, that's in the training, no points are assigned to them. You can do as many times as you want. The assessments at the bottom there, these are for points, and I'm going to go back to the textbook for just a minute. You'll notice on the screen here there are 4 assessments. If you go to page 30 in your textbook, you'll see that at the end of chapter 1 there are 4 assessments, and each one of those assessments do have the SNAP icon. Again, as I mentioned previously, if I were a student, I would probably go through, do the assessments that I see in the book, follow those directions in the book, complete them using your student data files. Again, and then you can check them. I posted the PDF files for those assessments so you can see what the end product looks like. Do that first, and then you can come in here to SNAP and complete each one of these assessments using SNAP. Remember, it grades it for you, and then you can get your, and hopefully by practicing them beforehand, you'll have a good understanding of what they're going to be testing you on, obviously, and they're the same thing. Almost all of these assessments in SNAP are the same ones that you see in the textbook. So, great review to do them in the textbook first. You'll have 3 tries to get the assessment correct. If on the first couple of times you don't get it correct, you'll want to ask yourself a couple of questions here. One is, have I gone through the projects in the chapter first? Because I know there are some students who immediately want to go to any assignments or anything that's worth points. They'll do that first, trying to avoid the time it takes to do the tutorials. However, I will caution you with that. As I mentioned before, the SNAP program grades these assessments based on what they've taught you in the chapter and in the tutorials. So, if after the first couple of tries on the assessments you're not passing them, then I would recommend going back through the chapter and make sure you understand the ways, the methods that they've used in the chapter, and then come back and try your assessment again. So there's 4 of those. Again, a concept exam, and then the performance evaluation is kind of similar to the skill exam, in the training session, except the performance evaluation obviously is for points, and it does grab all the concepts that were learned in that chapter. Okay, so all that's for week 1, chapter 1. Now the second week you'll come in to SNAP, you'll log on to SNAP, and you'll go to week 2. You'll click on the week 2 link. And that's just an indicator that Monday is Labor Day, which is September 1st. Then for week 2, you will have 2 chapters that you're going to have to complete. But again, as you'll notice here, there's a training session. It'll open up on September 1st. It'll be due Sunday at 11:55 on September 7th. So the training's up here. Anything done in the training, no points are assigned. The assessment area, those are the ones that you'll want to complete for points. And then chapter 3 has its training and assessments. And I know for the first couple of chapters it looks like these aren't in order, for one thing, but also that the assessments, there's 4 of them, but that's not, it could be in chapter 5 that there's 7 assessments, or in chapter 7 there's 9. So be careful, just make sure that you do all of them, but you should be able to double check with the textbook and in SNAP, and they should match. Wherever you see a SNAP icon in the textbook, you'll also find the SNAP exercise in the chapter for the gradeds or the assessments. Okay, and then I also want to point out again, student user guide and frequently asked question, both of those very helpful, and I only mention that because I want you to, you can reach out to me and ask questions. This will give you answers quickly in case I don't respond to you as quickly as you need. Also, I want to highly recommend the help button, which gives you access to this live chat, and they are extremely responsive. As soon as you click on that, you type in the information, and then you start chat, and it's very similar to instant messaging, and like I said, very responsive, probably even more responsive than if you call them on the phone. So any help that you need with SNAP, I would contact them first, or look at your user guide. That's fine too, obviously, but they are very helpful. My experience with them has been very good. Now you do need to be very clear as to the questions that you're asking. Also keep in mind, just like I've stated in the communication area on the syllabus, please, when you're communicating with these representatives from SNAP or with anyone, make sure that your communication is professional. Make sure that you are very careful with what you say, the tone that's being conveyed. These people are here to help, but they're not here to take your demands. So be very careful with how you communicate, and that's with anybody, not just with them, with me, anybody that you're communicating with in business. So just be very careful with that. And I will say, when you're working on some of these assessments, it may get frustrating. Maybe because one of the assessments you don't feel like it's grading correctly. Try not to let that emotion come through when you are chatting with these representatives. I mean, they want you to succeed, and I do too. I want you to be successful. So just kind of watch your emotions there and communicate as clearly as you can. So I think that is probably all with SNAP as far as the weeks are concerned. I don't think you get the scheduling tab. The grades tab, when you click on that, you'll be able to see I think the assignments will include your assessments, and I'm trying to think, the performance evaluations. The exam session will contain your quizzes, the quiz scores. So, and I don't think we've got any examples here. When you come into this, like let's say for example on the first assessment, you'll have your points here, and if you click on that score, you should be able to get back to that assessment itself, and there's actually screenshots. It records every click, every keystroke that you put into an assessment, so it's recording all that, and this is one way that either you or you basically can go, as a student, can go back and see what was recorded, what steps you took to complete a certain request, whether that's whatever feature, if they ask you to change margins or whatever. This records it, and so if they count it wrong, you can go back in and see, okay, how did I do that? How did I change the margins? And does that line up with what's in the chapter and what they taught me? But that is one way. If you think you did something correctly on the assessment and it's marking it incorrect, this is where you need to check first, check the screenshots and the recording of every keystroke that you took. And I don't have an example here to show you, or I would. Or when you reach out to the representatives at SNAP, the technical support, that's what they're going to do. They're going to go and look at your assessment and on the keystrokes that you made and all the clicks that you took to complete that assessment. If it doesn't align with what the SNAP assessment, how SNAP grades it, then it'll count it wrong. So that's why I encourage you to make sure you go through the projects, do exactly on these assessments what you were taught in the projects. And I don't think you have an administration tab, so you may only have home and grades. So anyway, hopefully you're able to get in to register okay and then get started for the first week's assignments. But as always, if you have questions, feel free to email me or call me. I'll be glad to help you. As I mentioned before, try to get in and do these assignments early on in the week. Don't wait till Sunday night and expect me to respond, within 2 hours if you start working on these at 9 o'clock on Sunday night. So be proactive and try to anticipate any problems or questions that you may have early on in the week. So I look forward to having you all in class, and I look forward to a great semester.